And we're going to look at a very familiar story to anybody that's been in church at any time. It's a very familiar story, but my prayer for you tonight is this: that you look and come with open, fresh eyes and come looking for what God has. Because I feel like He gave me something new this week when he said, this is what I want you to preach. God's got something big for us, but He expects something more out of us. If He's going to give us something big, He's going to expect big things out of us. And we serve a big, big God, a God that can do wild and crazy things. And He wants to do them through us. And some of y'all learned the last 2 weeks, I'm kind of do wild and crazy things. I'm still getting messages on Facebook about this hot dog costume, but that's okay. My wife found me a new one this week. I got a new one to break out next year. It's a surprise. But you never know. You never know. But I feel like if we can't have fun at church, why be here, right? So, but as we look at Exodus chapter 3, we're going to find that Moses is in a very good spot in his life. Everything's new and fresh. He's got something new. It's a new start. It's a new beginning. And everything's good for Moses at this point. But I think to understand chapter 3 and get to chapter 3, we need to understand chapter 2. See, back in chapter 2 is when Moses feared for his life. Moses grew up in Pharaoh's house, and as he grew up, he understood, and he realized, I don't look like these Egyptians. And I relate more to the Hebrew slaves. And why is that? And as he grew, he understood that, you know what, I'm one of them. I'm not one of the Egyptians. And so it bothered him so bad one day when there was an Egyptian beating a slave, a Hebrew slave, that he went and jumped in between them. And one thing led to another, that he killed the Egyptian. And he hid and he buried him. Anger had got him. The next day comes and passes, and he sees 2 of the Hebrews fighting. And he goes to them and says, hey, what's the deal? Why are y'all fighting? You're supposed to be helping each other against them. And he questioned them, and their words to them with him was sarcastic. What are you going to do? Are you going to kill one of us too? And Moses froze in his steps because he realized what he thought no one ever saw had been caught. He had been called out as a murderer. He got scared and he ran. He runs to Midian to get away, because he knows now Pharaoh's going to know what he'd done, and Pharaoh's going to come for him. So he runs to Midian to get away, to protect his life, where he's going to live his life out in fear, a failure, as a murderer. And he feels that he'll never have nothing ever again. He runs and figures the rest of his life is going to be nothing. But just like the first time that God protected him as a child, he is sent off to a foreign country. He runs off to a foreign area, and he meets someone else. He met Jethro's daughter, and she took him in. And then we find here that he's got, everything becomes new for him. He gets a new family. He's got children, a new job. Things are great in his life. He's at a fresh start. All that in the past is now in the past, and they don't know that he's a murderer, and he can start fresh, and life's going good for him. And some of us find ourselves in that place in our life sometimes that things are going good and we feel good and we get comfortable. I'm going to tell you, before I ever get started tonight, comfortable is the worst place you ever want to be in your Christian life. Because when you get comfortable, you get relaxed and you quit serving. You just go through the motions. I've been there, I've done that. I could walk the walk better than anybody in this building. Anywhere I went, I knew how to walk the walk. I knew what I was doing. I was comfortable. Things were good. And God decided it was time to rock my world. And just like he done Moses, right here, you're going to see he's going to reach down, he's going to look at Moses and say, Moses, I'm back. And I got something for you. Now, I can't imagine how y'all would react, but I'd be like, hey, God, look, I just got things straight. I just worked out all these problems. I'm good to go. Look, things are great. Let's not cause no issues. Let's not upset the apple cart. How about you go see that person over here? I mean, being in Moses' shoes had to be tough. He had to run for his life. Things are good. He's took care of all the anxiety and the nervousness and the fear. And now God says, hey, I got something for you. But Moses didn't do that. Let's pick up. I want us to see tonight that some of you may be in a season of hiding, and that's where he was at. Because of your past failures. Now's not the time to quit. God isn't done with you yet. It's time that we rise up and feel the calling that God has for you. As we look here, Jesus is going to come. He's going to call Moses. And when Jesus comes and calls us for more, he's not calling us just from failure. Oftentimes, he's calling us from comfort. Sometimes when Jesus calls you, it's because you done got comfortable. And he's got to get you uncomfortable. One of the biggest threats of you walking into the kingdom calling on your life isn't your failure. Many times, it's your comfort. You get so comfortable that you miss the kingdom, and you will think that comfort is the goal. Jesus didn't die on the cross to make you comfortable. He died to bring you into the kingdom. Oftentimes, people hand out Christmas cards with their family picture on them. And they all look perfect. As someone illustrated one time, maybe what needs to be on the bottom of your Christmas card is comfortable. Or fake, as I like to call it. Because I'm like, I ain't never seen no family, all the hair is perfect. Everybody's smiling. If you got teenagers, you know it ain't all going to go perfect. If you got kids, it ain't going to go perfect. Sean's don't even know when his birthday is. He was celebrating a birthday in the van a month late. We had a good time on the van. Should come ride with us sometimes. It's fun times, ain't it, Sean? But you know, every day's different. Every day's different. But our Christmas card should say comfortable. I would love to see that Christmas card of some family, my hair's going this way. Some kid being hung up like this, because that would have been my mom being like, hey, stop! We're trying to take a picture here. God is saying, I called you for more, and I didn't call you to be comfortable. It's time now that we realize just this. God has directed you for more. 3 things we're going to learn that Moses answered a call to more. Let's pick up in Exodus chapter 3, verse 1 and 2. The first thing we need to see is this. Don't get distracted. Now Moses kept a flock of Jethro, his father-in-law, the priest of Midian. And he led the flock to the backside of the desert and came to the mountain of God, even to Horeb. And the angel of the Lord appeared to him in a flame of fire out of the midst of a bush. And he looked, and behold, the bush burned with fire, and the bush was not consumed. He could have easily got consumed and distracted at the burning bush. But he focused on that bush. It's easy in life to get distracted with everything going on. It's easy to just fall in there. It's easy to get comfortable and miss what God's divine invitation is for us. Moses doesn't let his comfort distract him and cause him to run from the burning bush. He accepted the invitation. Distraction will hold you back from accepting God's will for your life. Fear, comfort will hold you back from serving God. My prayer tonight is just this, that tonight we learn that God's calling you for more, and it's time that we go get it. It's time to erase all the distractions that come along. There's some of you here tonight, you probably got your phones, and I'm telling you right now, if you got your phones, I'm asking you to put it down, because I know you're on it. I will call you by name if I have to, because I love you. Because God's got something for you. He wants more out of you. He wants you to surrender with everything. He don't want you to surrender holding back like this. Hey, God, here it is. I'm here to help you. But this over here, I got, man, my job's on my mind. My bills are on my mind. And y'all going to have to excuse me, but I'm about to die. God's calling you for more, and we need to figure out we need to get the distractions out. God came down from heaven. He saw the chaos of the world and humanity, and He could have easily thrown us into eternal condemnation, eternal judgment, but He didn't do that. Instead, He put on flesh. He walked among us. He touched us with His grace and mercy. Thank God for grace and mercy. Then He hung, bled, and died on an old rugged cross. But thank God for that resurrection power. He pulled us near with salvation. He showed us redemption. He whispered the sweet love of the gospel. And just this, I love you and there's not a thing you can do about it. He focused on you. It's time we focus on Him. It's time to get the distraction of this world. There's going to be something, Satan's going to come after you nonstop. He's not going to want you to do more. I'm going to tell you now, God's going to tell some of you tonight to do more. He's going to call you to the altar tonight. And as soon as you make that move, before you move out, Satan's going to look at you and say, no. This is why you shouldn't. But it's time we look at Satan and tell him you're nobody. You're deadbeat. You're headed for hell with no home. Your only home is hell. And it's going to suck for you. You're going there. I'm going to heaven, and thank God for heaven. Thank God for God and that home in heaven. He's the winner, you're the loser. Step back, buddy. It's time that we get in and get ready. God's calling some of you to do something deeper. But you're distracted by your job. You're distracted by your own greed and self-righteousness. Some of you are distracted by comfort and your own personal goals. Friday night we had a thing for the teenagers, and one of the things that night was we had a campfire. Well, the whole night was around a campfire. But one of the illustrations after Esther's messages was we wrote down something we struggled with, and it was time to give it to God. And then they threw it in the fire. That's where we're at tonight. We need to throw it in the fire. We need to give it to God. I think that was an illustration that we all needed. I needed that night. I wrote some things down. It's time for me to put some self-will down and throw it out. We're all distracted by the little things that don't even matter in life. Our focus should thoroughly be on the invitation for something greater. But our problem is we're settled for less than things with eternal value. Not only do we need to not be distracted, number two, we need to take our shoes off. We need to take our shoes off. Let's pick up in verse 5. I want you to see the very first thing God says to Moses. And He said, draw not nigh hither. Put off thy shoes from thy feet, for this place whereon thou standest is holy ground. I asked my wife when I was telling her about my message, because I do discuss that sometimes, might be a bad idea. Is it okay if I take my shoes off? She said no. We'd lose 5 church members tonight if I'd done that. And it'd be to a funeral. But it wouldn't be over, You don't want me to take my shoes off. But he told Moses, take your shoes off. You're standing on holy ground. When we come to God, we're standing on holy ground. But there was two reasons he told him to take it off. The first one was just this. He told him to remove his shoes. He needed to remove the things that was between your flesh and God's sovereign power. He wanted him to realize often we get comfortable that we forget to take our shoes off. We don't take time to confess, surrender, and remove the things that would get us in the way of experiencing the fullness of God and His sovereign power and His sovereignty. What we need to realize is God's not telling, He wants him to take his shoes off and experience God for who God is. You know, oftentimes our shoes, when I worked in a steel mill, you wore steel-toe boots. And at first you thought about things would hit your toes, you'd get run over. I don't know how many times forklifts come over your feet. You know, but after a while you get so numb of it you don't even know. There's times as one you don't lose your toes before you realize it. But you get numb to them being on there. And what he's telling Moses is to take your shoes off. Take your shoes off and just feel my goodness. Feel my power. Feel how great I am. Because He is the great I am. He said, I want you to feel me. I want you to feel nothing but me and you. I want you to remove anything that's stopping me from you. You can't feel the carpet, you can't feel the grass when you're outside with shoes on. I don't like to take my shoes off outside. That's just me. Some of you like to go to the beach and you like to feel the sand in your feet. I don't like that either. But it's that thing that you like. But here's the thing. That's what God was telling Moses. I'm here. I'm here for you. And I'm an almighty God. Take your shoes off and feel my power. The second reason he told him to take his shoes off is I imagine he looked at Moses and said, Moses, you probably walked through some manure or some poo or whatever you want to say right now. And I don't want you to walk through this holy ground with your dirty feet. I want you to come. A lot of you have went through a lot this year. You walked through 2019 and you've stepped in so much. And God's saying, take your shoes off and come to holy ground, leave it behind. Don't take it through the holidays. Don't take it into 2020. Take your shoes off and realize who He is. Makes me want to take my shoes off and run around. 3 of you pass out and I'd pass out because I ran around. But here's the thing. He told Moses, I want you to leave all that behind. Everything that happened before now, leave it behind. You're standing on holy ground. Take your shoes off. Experience my goodness, but leave that behind you because God said, I'm new. I'm afresh. I give you new life. I give you new surrender. It don't matter where you're at in your life, and I don't care what you've done. I don't care where you've been. I don't care. God says if you come to Him, He's holy and forgiving God. He will make you new. And He was telling Moses, leave that all behind because it's a waste of your time to worry about it. When you take dirt in, I don't know how your wives are, but if she cleans the carpet and I come in with dirty feet, I might as well sign the divorce papers. Because I know how to track some dirt in. I'm good at it. I'm a professional. If you don't know, don't ask her. And then she's like, I didn't clean. Well, God said this is holy. It's clean. When you come in here, it's clean. God said it's holy ground. Here I am. You have come to holy ground. Take your shoes off. Enjoy my power. He needed Moses to feel the power of God because eventually on them same feet he's going to have to stand before Pharaoh again. And he knew Pharaoh was going to be big and intimidating to Moses, scary to Moses, and he needed Moses to realize, I'm with you. You serve a big, big God. And if we're connected and there's nothing between us, I can help you. He wanted him to understand that God's in control. He needed Moses to know that he was bigger and more powerful than Pharaoh. We serve a God that's awesome. We serve a God that's powerful. And we serve the great I am. It don't get no better than God. I watched a video a while back of Diane Disney. I don't know if many people know who she is, but her dad was Walt Disney. But as she started school, she was in kindergarten and they introduced themselves. See, they lived a very normal life, believe it or not. As she started kindergarten, they asked, every kid went around and introduced herself. And as soon as she says, hey, I'm Diane Disney, they was like, oh, saying crazy things and cheering. And she started crying because she thought they was making fun of her. And the teacher asked her, what's wrong? She's like, all I did was tell my name and I feel like they're laughing at me. She says, no. It's who you are. She said, I'm just Diane Disney. And immediately they start cheering again. And she's like, I don't understand. She said, well, ain't your dad Walt Disney? And she says, Walter Disney? Yes. She says, do you not know he's the owner of Disneyland? And all that. And she says, no. So she goes home and asks her dad, what's all this? And for a long time she was in awe of who her father was, because she had no idea what he had, because he lived a normal life. She was in awe of her father the same way we should be in awe of our Father. You need to get excited for who your Father really is. Your God's a healing Father. He's a delivering Father. He's a loving Father. He's a saving Father. He's a kind Father. He's a good, good Father. We serve a God above all gods. A Father that loves more than anything in the world. My parents have loved me unconditional, but I'll stand and tell you they've never loved me like God. No one's ever going to love you like God. Amen. That's true unconditional love. He's a healer, he's a deliverer, he's a savior, but most of all, he's just a good, good Father. He's a big God. And what he wants to do is, I'm not trying to minimize your problems today. I want you to realize we need to learn how to maximize your God. We need to learn to maximize God. If we don't maximize God, we're never going to get the best for ourselves, and we're never going to reach fully his potential will of what he's got for you. We got to realize how big our God is. We need to take our shoes off and be reminded who he is. Number 3, not only do we need to not be distracted, we need to take our shoes off, but number 3, we need to make a move. Exodus chapter 3, verse 3 and 4. And Moses said, I will now turn aside and see this great sight, why the bush is not burnt. Then when the Lord saw that he turned aside to see, God called unto him out of the midst of the bush and said, Moses, Moses, he said, here am I. God did not respond until Moses moved. The bush was burning, but God never said one word until Moses turned and moved towards the bush. A lot of times we sit in our prayer life and we're waiting for God to do something, but a lot of times God's sitting there just waiting. Well, I'm waiting for them to move. I'm waiting for them to do something. I'm waiting for them to move. I need them to do something. I need your faith. I need you to do something. We got to learn to move. If we want God to move, we got to be willing to move. Oftentimes God wants us to take the first step. Once God had Moses take the first step and he responded to him, he used him. He told him. That's when he told him about the holy ground. And he reminded him who he was. If you just take the steps in the faithfulness and allow a living water to flow through you. God just wants to flow through you tonight. But he needs you to make a move. He needs you to make a move, be willing to step out. I don't know why I'm looking at the clock. I can't read it. So y'all good. I got about 8 more pages. But here's the thing. He wanted him to move. I wrote this statement and everything I've done ever since then. If we want God to show us who he is, he wants us to show him our faith. We got to move. He told Moses moved. But here's what we need to realize is when we're ready to kick out the distractions and take our shoes off and make a move, as soon as you get excited about doing something greater and God having purpose for your life and realizing who he is, Satan's going to remind you of every reason that you're not going to make it. You're not qualified. I'll tell you, you're qualified. Because if God called you, he qualified you for it. I don't care what it is. Later, God tells Moses to go talk to Pharaoh about letting his people go. And Moses questioned God because Moses had a speaking problem. See, Moses had a stuttering problem and a speech problem. And he questioned God, why? I understand. As y'all know, I stutter through half the stuff I have to tell every day. I can't get announcements half the weeks. I'm going to stutter through my message. First time God says, hey, I'm calling you to preach, I said, God, you got the wrong person. I still say that to him often. But God reminds me, just as he did Moses, the same thing he's telling you is this tonight. When Moses said, I can't do it, I can't talk, God said yes, because there won't be no doubt, because I'll talk through you. Moses was telling the truth. It was a fact that he had a speech problem. God didn't tell him to fake it. He didn't tell him to hide it. What he said was, we need to just allow me to use you. We need to put the facts on the table and not hide them, and also put the truth on the table. He didn't hide the truth. The fact was, Moses can't talk, but the truth is this. If you open your mouth, he was going to speak through him. He said, I'll speak through you. We need to learn what the difference is between the facts and the truth and be willing to put them out there for God. The fact is, you may feel like you're under attack and you're going through a hard time, but the truth is, no weapon formed against you shall ever prosper. The fact may be your feet are the enemy. The fact may be you feel the enemy is coming after you. But the truth is this, the greater is he that's in you than he's in the world. The fact may be you're tired and ready to throw in the towel. But the truth is this, that they that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength, and they shall mount up their wings as eagles. They shall not walk and not faint. They shall run and not be weary. The fact may be I cried myself to sleep all night long last night. But the truth is, weeping may endure for a night, but joy comes in the morning. The fact may be you're tired of praising God and don't want to praise him anymore. But the truth is this, I will bless the Lord at all times, and his praise shall continually be in my mouth. The fact is, it don't matter where you're at or who you think you are, God can use you. My favorite thing is God will take your weakest point and make it your greatest blessing. Moses could speak. He goes to Pharaoh. As we hear the rest of the story, he let his people go because God spoke. Tonight, God's speaking to some of you, and he's saying, now's the time for you to move. Or God, I'm just not able. God, I can't do that. I'm not able to do this. I'm not able to do that. Someone told me I would love to help with trunk or treat, but I'm physically not able. That's not true. And I'll argue that point all day long. I'll argue any point when you say I can't do that, because what I'm going to tell you is if you allow God to do it, you can do it. God says you can do all things through Christ. Not through yourself. I'm not here asking you to do something through yourself. God's not asking you to do something through yourself. Tonight He's asking you to move and use what He's going to give you. It's time that we come up here and tell God, hey, here it is. The fact is, I'm not good enough. I'm not really capable. But God, I'll do it. Where you need me, I'll go. We keep talking about team around here. Team makes the world go round. That's what I heard in many organizations. I went home and dreamed about it. Team makes the thing go around. If one part of that team's not committed, the rest of the team fails. God's calling you to jump on board with the team. Some of it, God's telling you it's time to get off the bleachers and quit being a fan. He's telling you to jump in the game and get ready. Just like He told Moses, I don't care what you qualify to do, I'm going to use you. I just need you to step out and give it to me. Some of you need to make a commitment tonight. I'm ready to move. I know I need to move more. I'm going to be honest. There's times I run and I'm like, God, I'm not capable of doing it. I'm not qualified. I understand. I'm not telling you something I don't understand. But I will tell you this. If you give it to God and allow God to use you, He's going to do big things through you. I love you and I want to tell you the truth. We serve a big, big God. And that God loves you. He wants to use you. He's got a plan for you. He's got a purpose. And that purpose is good. That purpose is to prosper, not to fail. If God's going to call you to do it, He's going to allow you to do it. And you will succeed. If you read, God never loses. God never loses. Everybody that moved for God won. Moses won. Moses was directed to do more, and he done it when he committed. It didn't matter what his past was. God still used him. I don't care where you're at tonight. God wants to use you. Every one of us come from different paths, and there's a reason for that. I believe we all walk through different testimonies so we can be a light for someone else in a different place. It's time that we do more. Every head bowed and every eye closed.